Lin E., where's the property deed? I had rummaged through every drawer in the house, even opened the safe, but I just couldn't find that red property deed certificate. Su Qing was washing dishes in the kitchen. Hearing my words, her hands clearly paused for a moment, but her voice was still relatively calm. What's wrong? Why are you suddenly looking for the property deed? The company needs employees to provide proof of property to apply for a housing subsidy. I stared her back. Do you know where it is? I don't remember either. Maybe it's at your mom's place. Su Qing's voice trembled slightly. My heart sank. We bought this apartment when we got married. A 120 square meter 3-bedroom that cost me all my savings and my parents' retirement money. A total of $3 million. I had always kept the property deed. How could it be at my mom's place? I took out my phone and directly dialed the Land Administration Bureau. Hello, I'd like to inquire about the property information under my name. 10 minutes later, I hung up completely stunned. There was no longer any property under my name. This apartment had been transferred a month ago. The buyer was Su Ming, my brother-in-law. Suing. I rushed into the kitchen, my voice trembling with anger. You sold the apartment to your brother? The bowl in Su Qing's hand clattered to the floor, shattering into pieces. She looked at me, her face pale, her lips moving as if she wanted to say something but couldn't. Speak. I grabbed her arm. Did you secretly take the property deed to transfer the ownership? I had no choice. Tears instantly welled up in Su Qing's eyes. Xiao Ming is getting married, and the bride's family demanded that he must have an apartment, or they wouldn't agree to the marriage. Mom said if Xiao Ming couldn't get married, she would kill herself. I let go of her hand and took a few steps back, looking at this woman I had shared a bed with for 3 years as if she were a stranger. So you just gave him our apartment? My voice was surprisingly calm. Where are we supposed to live? We can rent a place. Your salary is high anyway. My salary is high. I suddenly laughed, a laugh that made Su Qing's face turn even paler. Su Qing, I paid $2 million for the down payment on this apartment, and I'm the one paying the $1 million yuan mortgage every month. You gave the apartment to Su Ming, so who's going to pay the mortgage? The mortgage. Su Qing bit her lip. The mortgage has been transferred to Xiao Ming. He'll pay it. I was completely dumbfounded, not because of what she said, but because of the matter-of-fact expression on her face as she said it. In her eyes, it was perfectly natural for the apartment I worked so hard to buy to be given to her brother. She didn't even need to discuss it with me, just secretly transferred it. Su Qing, I'll ask you one last time. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. Besides the apartment, what else did you give Su Ming? Su Qing's eyes started to dart around. No, nothing else. I took out my phone, opened the banking app, and turned the screen towards her. I had $500,000 in savings in my account. Now, there's only $8,000 left. This $492,000, did you give it to Su Ming too? Su Qing completely broke down, collapsing to the floor and sobbing. Lin E., I really had no choice. Xiao Ming said his girlfriend's family wanted a betrothal gift of $500,000, or they would break up. Xiao Ming is already 28. If he doesn't get married soon, he'll never find a wife. I watched her cry quietly, feeling completely hollowed out inside. 3 years. A full 3 years. I thought I had married a woman who loved me, but it turned out her heart was filled entirely with her brother. My salary, my apartment, my savings, in her eyes, they all belonged to her brother, and I was just a money-making machine. Suing. I crouched down, looking at her tear-streaked face. Let's get a divorce. Her sobbing stopped abruptly. She looked at me in horror. Linny, what did you say? I said, let's get a divorce. I stood up and turned to walk towards the bedroom. I'll go to a law firm tomorrow to consult about the divorce procedures. No. Su Qing stumbled after me and hugged my leg. Linny, I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. You can't divorce me. I don't agree to a divorce. I looked down at my wife, who was clinging to my leg and crying her heart out, and felt not a single ripple in my heart. 3 years ago, when we had just gotten married, she had cried just like this. That time, it was because her brother's business had failed and he owed 100,000 yuan. The creditors were at their door every day. She cried and begged me to help, and without a second thought, I gave the 100,000 I had saved for a car to Su Ming. At the time, I thought a husband and wife are one entity. Her brother is my brother, so it was right to help. 2 years ago, Su Ming's business failed again, this time owing $200,000. I gave him the money we had saved for renovating our house. A year ago, Su Ming said he wanted to take the civil service exam and needed 30,000 yuan for a training course. I gave it to him again. Now, my house is gone, my savings are gone, and I even have to pay the mortgage every month for a house that already belongs to Su Ming. I gently pried her hand off. Su Qing, I'm tired. She wanted to say more, but I had already closed the bedroom door. Sitting on the edge of the bed, I took out my phone and sent a WeChat message to the company's HR. I need to take a leave of absence tomorrow to handle some personal matters. Then, I opened another chat window. It was a headhunter who had added me on WeChat 2 months ago. I had never replied to him because I felt my current job was quite stable. But now I had changed my mind. I sent a message. Remember me? The position you offered me 2 months ago, is it still available? The other party replied almost instantly. Of course, I remember. Mr. Lin, have you finally come around? We've been keeping this position open for you. The annual salary is 1 million, plus stock options and dividends. Looking at this message, the first smile in 3 months finally appeared on my lips. Since Su Qing thinks everything I have belongs to her brother, I'll let her see what she can give her precious brother after losing me. I replied, let me think about it. By the way, which city is your company in? Shenzhen, the national headquarters. Why? Nothing, just thinking about a change of scenery. I put down my phone and listened to Su Qing's suppressed sobs outside. I'd already made up my mind. Tomorrow, I will do 3 things. First, resign. Second, go to Shenzhen for an interview. Third, sue Su Ming and Su Qing to demand a return of my property. As for our marriage, I no longer hold any hope. What is the point of a marriage where a woman can secretly sell their house to her brother behind her husband's back? Outside the door, Su Qing was still crying, still begging for my forgiveness. But I had no tears left. The next morning, I got up and washed as usual, changing into my work clothes just like any other day. Su Qing had clearly been up all night, her eyes swollen like walnuts. Seeing me get up, she quickly followed me. Lin, what you said yesterday was just in anger, right? Let's not get a divorce, okay? I ignored her and walked straight out the door. I bought a bun from the convenience store downstairs for breakfast and then took the subway to work. Once at the office, I knocked directly on the department director's door. Come. Director Zhang looked up and smiled when he saw it was me. Shaolin, so early? Is there any progress on that new project? Director Zhang, I want to resign, I said, getting straight to the point. The coffee in Director Zhang's hand nearly spilled. What? What did you say? I want to resign, and I'll complete the paperwork today, I repeated. Director Zhang put down his coffee cup and looked at me seriously. Shaolin, are you facing some difficulties? Is the salary not enough? Or is the work pressure too high? We can talk about it. There's no need to resign. I shook my head. It's not about the salary or the work. It's for personal reasons. Personal reasons? Director Zhang frowned. Shaolin, you are the technical backbone of our department. The company is preparing to promote you to project manager. Resigning now is very detrimental to your career development. I've made up my mind. My attitude was firm. Seeing that I was not joking, Director Zhang sighed. All right then, but you need to think it over carefully. This kind of impulsive decision might make you regret it. I sneered inwardly. Regret? The thing I regret most right now is my unconditional trust in Su Qing over the past 3 years of our marriage. It was already noon by the time I finished the resignation procedures. My colleagues were all surprised and asked me why I was resigning so suddenly. I just said there was a family matter and didn't explain further. In the afternoon, I flew directly to Shenzhen. The headhunting firm's office was in a high-end office building in the Futian district. The person who received me was a manager named Wang, in his 30s, who looked very professional. Mr. Lin, it's a pleasure to finally meet you. Manager Wang shook my hand enthusiastically. We have studied your resume repeatedly, and it fits our client's requirements perfectly. What is the specific position? I asked. Technical director, responsible for managing the entire technical department and new product development. Manager Wang handed me a file. This is a detailed introduction to the company. I flipped through the materials. It was a company specializing in enterprise-level software. It wasn't large, but it was growing rapidly, with last year's revenue already exceeding 500 million. Is the 1 million yuan annual salary pre-tax or post-tax? I asked. Pre-tax, plus their year-end bonuses and stock option incentives. If the company goes public, your earnings will be even more substantial. I nodded. When can I have the interview? Right now? Our boss is waiting upstairs. The interview went very smoothly. The boss was a middle-aged man in his 40s with a technical background. We hit it off talking about technology. Mr. Lin, there's no doubt about your technical skills, but I have a question. The boss looked at my resume. You were doing well at your last company. Why the sudden desire to switch jobs? I was silent for a few seconds, then answered truthfully, family reasons. I need a fresh start. The boss seemed to sense something in my tone and nodded. Understand. When can you start? If you decide to hire me, I can start anytime. Great, it's settled then. The boss stood up and shook my hand. Welcome to the company. Leaving the company, I felt a great sense of relief. Back at the hotel that night, I sent Su Qing a WeChat message. I've resigned. Starting tomorrow, I won't have a salary. Su Qing replied almost instantly. What? Why did you resign? I didn't reply to her and just put my phone on silent mode. The next morning, my phone showed 37 missed calls, all from Su Qing. There were also countless WeChat messages, starting with questions, then pleading, and finally threats. I didn't reply to a single one. In the morning, I went to the bank, opened a new account, and transferred my remaining 8,000 yuan into it. Then I sent an email to the company's finance department, requesting that my salary be deposited into the new account. In the afternoon, I went to see a lawyer. Hello, I'd like to consult you about divorce and the recovery of assets. The lawyer was a professional-looking woman in her 50s. Please, tell me the details of your situation. I explained in detail how the house was sold behind my back and my savings were transferred away. After listening, the lawyer frowned. Based on what you've described, your wife's actions do indeed seem to infringe upon your property rights. However, because you're a married couple, the case might be complicated. So, do I have a chance of winning the case? If you can provide sufficient evidence that these assets were your premarital property or prove that the transfer of assets was done without your knowledge, your chances of winning are quite high. I nodded. Then let's start preparing. The lawyer began to inquire about the details of the case and told me what materials I needed to prepare. Just then my phone rang. The caller ID showed mother-in-law. I hesitated for a moment, but still answered. Lin, you heartless bastard. My mother-in-law's voice pierced through the phone. Qingqing has been living like a widow for you for 3 years, and this is how you treat her. I held the phone a little further away from my ear. What is it? What is it? You have the nerve to ask what it is. Her voice grew shriller. You resigned, didn't you? Are you trying to starve Qingqing to death? I said calmly, my resignation is my own choice. It has nothing to do with Su Qing. Nothing to do with her? She's your wife. If she's my wife, why did she give the house to Su Ming behind my back? Why did she secretly transfer my savings? I retorted. My mother-in-law was speechless for a moment, then became even more furious. That's her brother. Her own flesh-and-blood brother. It's only natural to help her brother. I laughed. If it's so natural, she could have used her own money to help him. Why use mine? Your husband and wife. Your money is her money. If my money is her money, then her money should be my money too. Tell me, how much has Su Qing contributed to the family in the past 3 years? My question left my mother-in-law speechless. Su Qing hadn't worked for the past 3 years, claiming she was studying for the civil service exam, but she never passed it. I covered all the family's expenses, including her cosmetics, clothes, phone bills, and so on. Linny, I don't care what you think. You have to come back and keep working. My mother-in-law started to bluster. Otherwise, I'll go to your company and make a scene. Do as you please, I said calmly. But I've already resigned, so it's useless for you to go there and cause trouble. What? You really resigned? The tone of my mother-in-law's voice changed. Yes, and I've already found a new job. In Shenzhen. Shenzhen? You're going to Shenzhen? What about Qingqing? She can live with Su Ming. After all, he's the only one she cares about. With that, I hung up the phone. The lawyer listened, stunned. Mr. Lin, while this may be satisfying, it could affect the division of assets in the divorce. I thought for a moment and nodded. I understand, but some things need to be said. You're right, though. I'll be careful. After leaving the law firm, I walked the streets of Shenzhen for a long time. This city was so much more prosperous than our small town, full of opportunities, full of hope. I took out my phone and saw that Su Qing had sent another dozen or so messages, all more or less the same, just asking me to come back, saying she knew she was wrong. I thought for a moment and replied with one message. Su Qing, let's cool off for a while. We'll talk about the divorce after I get settled in Shenzhen. After sending it, I deleted her and her mother's WeChat contacts. My phone was instantly much quieter. On my third day of settling in Shenzhen, I received a call from an unknown number. Is this Lin E? This is Su Ming, my brother-in-law, the one who took my house and my savings. What is it? My tone was calm. Brother-in-law, listen to me. Su Ming's voice was a little frantic. I know you're angry, but you can't just ignore my sister. She hasn't eaten for days. Can you bear to see her like this? I sneered. What does her not eating have to do with me? Your husband and wife. Su Ming raised his voice. And brother-in-law, about the house, I can explain. Explain what? I cut him off. Explain how you got my wife to secretly transfer the deed behind my back. Or explain how you spent my money on a car to pick up girls. Su Ming was silent for a few seconds, then his tone softened. Brother-in-law, I know what I did was wrong, but I really had no choice. My girlfriend's family's demands were too high. I couldn't get married otherwise. That's your business. It has nothing to do with me. Brother-in-law, Su Ming suddenly jiv. You can't be so selfish. I'm your brother-in-law. You're supposed to help me. Hearing this, I laughed out loud. Su Ming, let me ask you a question. Do you think a brother-in-law is obligated to buy his wife's brother a house and a car? Of course, Su Ming said with complete confidence. You marry my sister, so you're part of the Su family. The Su family's business is your business. All right then, since I'm part of the Su family, why didn't the Su family contribute a single penny when my parents were sick and hospitalized? Su Ming fell silent again. Last year, my father had a sudden heart attack and was hospitalized. The surgery cost $150,000. I had to borrow from all my relatives and friends to gather the money. Su Qing said her family was tight on cash at the time and didn't help at all. But then she turned around and gave Su Ming $30,000 for a training course. Brother-in-law, that's different. Su Ming's voice grew quieter. How is it different? I pressed. Didn't you just say I'm part of the Su family, and the Su family's business is my business? Why isn't my family's business the Su family's business? Su Ming was rendered speechless. I continued. Su Ming, let me tell you, from this day on, I have nothing to do with the Su family anymore. You can live in the house, but you'll have to pay the mortgage yourselves. Also, I've already filed a lawsuit against you to demand the return of my assets. What? Su Ming Svikith? You're suing us? Brother-in-law, how could you do this? We're family. Family. I laughed mockingly. Would family secretly sell a house behind someone's back? Would family secretly transfer their savings? Su Ming, when you treated me as family, did you ever consider my feelings? But what will the court decide? Su Ming's voice started to tremble. I don't know. We'll find out when the hearing starts, I said flatly. By the way, remember to get a good lawyer so you don't lose too badly. With that, I hung up the phone. Half an hour later, my new phone rang again. It was Su Qing this time. Linny, I'm begging you, please don't sue us, okay? Her voice was a mess from crying. I really know I was wrong. I'll give you the money back, and we'll transfer the house back to you. Just don't sue us, please. I listened calmly to her crying, feeling not a ripple in my heart. Su Qing, what are you going to use to pay me back? How are you going to transfer the house? Su Ming has already mortgaged the house to the bank for a loan. It can't be transferred now. Su Qing's crying stopped abruptly. What? Mortgaged? You didn't know? I sneered. Your dear brother mortgaged the house for a 1 million yuan loan, said he wanted to start a business. There's a bank mortgage on that house now. How are you going to transfer it to me? Su Qing was completely dumbfounded. Impossible. Xiao Ming wouldn't do this. He said he would just live in it for a few years and return it to us after he got married. Su Qing, you're still so naive. I shook my head. Su Ming never intended to give it back to you. He already considers the house his own. If you don't believe me, you can ask him and see if he's willing to transfer the house back to you. Su Qing cried even harder on the phone. I didn't comfort her and continued. Also, do you know what Su Ming used that 1 million loan for? For business. Su Qing's voice trembled. To buy a car, a BMW X5, for $800,000. The remaining $200,000 he spent on jewelry and bags for his girlfriend. I stated the facts calmly. Do you think a person like him would give the house back to you? Su Qing's sobs came from the other end of the phone. She was crying too hard to speak. Su Qing, I have one last question for you. My tone became serious. If you were given another chance between me and Su Ming, who would you choose? Su Qing said through her tears, I choose you. I choose you. Really? I laughed sarcastically. Then what if Su Ming tells you right now that he's in trouble again and needs money? What would you choose? Su Qing's voice suddenly grew quiet. You see, you're not even sure yourself. I sighed. Su Qing, there's no trust left between us. What's the point of a marriage without trust? Linny, I can change. I really can change. Su Qing begged me through her tears. Give me one more chance. I swear I'll never help Xiaoming again. Your vows are as fake as when you said for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, at our wedding, I said coldly. My words left Su Qing speechless. I continued, Su Qing, I've already had my lawyer prepare the divorce papers. Let's part on good terms. Let's not make this ugly. I don't agree to the divorce. Su Qing suddenly shouted, I'll die before I agree to a divorce. Then I'll see you in court, I said calmly and hung up the phone. After hanging up, I sat in my rented apartment in Shenzhen, looking at the night view outside the window. The city was brilliantly lit and full of life, and I could finally start over. I took out my laptop and started making a plan for my new life. First, work hard at the new company and prove my worth with my abilities. Second, get my property back through legal means and protect my rights. Lastly, find a woman who truly loves me and build a real family. As for Su Qing and Su Ming, they would soon find out how hard their lives would be after losing me, their sugar daddy. I opened a music app and played the song Star New. It was time to say goodbye to the past and embrace the future. In my first month at the new job, I threw myself completely into the project. As the technical director, I was responsible for managing the entire technical team while also participating in the development of new products. To be honest, the pressure was immense, but I enjoyed the feeling of being busy. There were new challenges every day, and I could see myself making progress every day. Most importantly, I no longer had to think about dealing with my mother-in-law's various demands after coming home, nor did I have to worry about how much money Su Qing had secretly transferred to Su Ming again. This feeling of freedom was truly amazing. This afternoon, I was in a meeting discussing the technical architecture of a new product when my assistant, Xiao Chun, suddenly knocked and came in. Mr. Lin, you have a phone call. They said it's very urgent. I frowned. The meeting was at a critical point. What call could be so urgent? Who is it? She said she's your mother-in-law. Xiao Chen's expression was a bit awkward. My heart sank, but I still said to everyone, you guys continue the discussion, I'll take this call. Walking into my office, I picked up the phone. Hello. Lin Yi, you heartless bastard. My mother-in-law's voice burst out from the phone. What will it take for you to come back? I glanced at the office door to make sure it was closed before saying, I've already made it very clear I want a divorce. A divorce? Don't even think about it. My mother-in-law's voice grew shriller. Qing has been a grass widow for you for 3 years, and you're just going to abandon her like this? A grass widow? I almost laughed out loud. That's an interesting way to put it. Besides spending my money, what has she done these past 3 years? Does she have a job? Does she have an income? What has she ever contributed to this family? She's preparing for the civil service exam. She's been trying for 3 years and hasn't passed. What does that tell you? It tells you she's never even taken it seriously. I said bluntly, she's just using it as an excuse not to work. My mother-in-law was left speechless. After a moment, she said, Anyway, you can't get a divorce. If you dare to divorce her, I'll go to your company and make a scene. Do as you please, I said calmly. But I think you should be more concerned about Su Ming's situation first. What's wrong with Xiaoming? He owes the bank $1 million on his mortgage, and he can't pay it anymore. The bank is going to repossess the house. Did you know that? The other end of the line suddenly went quiet. I continued, Also, that BMW of his was bought on loan, and he can't pay that back either. The car loan company calls him every day to collect the debt. That That's impossible. Xiao Ming said his business was doing very well. Business? What business? He's not in business at all. He squandered that 1 million. I sneered. If you don't believe me, you can go to the bank and check how much he still owes. My mother-in-law's voice began to tremble. Then what do we do? What do we do? We do nothing, I said mercilessly. He's an adult. He has to pay his own debts. But he can't afford to pay it back. If he can't pay, then let the bank take the house and the loan company tow the car. I shrugged, though she couldn't see it. It's not my debt, anyway. Lin Yi, you can't just stand by and watch him sink. Xiao Ming is your brother-in-law. I've already sued him. He is now the defendant, not my brother-in-law. I corrected her. My mother-in-law was in a full-blown panic. Then how much money do you want? As long as you're willing to help Xiao Ming pay his debt, we'll give you any amount. Her words made me laugh. Me want money? You got it wrong, haven't you? It's Su Ming who should be paying me back. Between the house and the savings, he owes me 3.5 million. 3.5 million? That much. And that's not including interest, I added. According to the law, this kind of illegal possession of another's property requires double compensation. My mother-in-law was completely stunned, unable to speak for a long time. I glanced at my watch. The meeting was still waiting for me. Is there anything else? If not, I have a meeting to get to. Wait, my mother-in-law said hurriedly. Lin Yi, let's discuss this. Can we settle this privately? Settle privately? I raised an eyebrow. Ow! You name your terms. I thought for a moment and said, it's not impossible. First, Su Qing must agree to the divorce and stop pestering me. Second, Su Ming must return the house and the car to me and compensate me 500,000 for my emotional distress over the past few months. Third, from now on, your Su family is forbidden from contacting me. That's impossible. My mother-in-law's voice changed. Xiao Ming has already mortgaged the house and the car. What does he have to give you back? That's your problem, not mine, I said coldly. Either accept my terms, or I'll see you in court. Lin Yi, how did you become so cold-blooded? You weren't like this before. The old me was a fool, I said bluntly. A fool your whole family treated like an ATM. My mother-in-law was once again rendered speechless. I continued, you should think it over carefully. By the way, a reminder, the bank has already started the auction process. The house will be forcibly repossessed soon. At that point, not only will Su Ming lose the house, but he will also have to bear all the legal consequences. With that said, I hung up the phone. Returning to the conference room, my colleagues were all waiting for me. Sorry about that. A family matter. I apologize to everyone. Let's continue. The meeting went on, but my mood was much better than before. Finally, the Su family was starting to panic. Finally, they were learning the consequences of losing me, their ATM. After the meeting, I returned to my office and opened my computer to check my emails. One was from my lawyer, informing me that Su Ming had received the court summons and the hearing was set for next Friday. Another was from HR, notifying me that this month's salary had been deposited. I opened my banking app and glanced at the balance, 128,000. This was my first month's salary after coming to Shenzhen. After taxes and social security, my take-home pay was over 100,000. It was double my previous salary. I took out my phone and sent a WeChat message to my mom. Mom, I'm transferring some money to you. You and Dad can buy something nice to eat. Then I transferred 20,000 yuan. Soon my mom called back. Son, why did you send so much money? Your father and I don't need it. Mom, my salary is higher now. It's only right that I show my respect to you and Dad, I said with a smile. By the way, I might be getting a divorce. There was silence on the other end of the line for a few seconds. Then my mom said, Son, did Xing do something outrageous again? I briefly explained what happened with the house and the savings. After listening, my mom was so angry she started cursing. This Su Qing, I knew from the start she was no good. Giving the house to her brother behind her back. Is that something a human being would do? Mom, don't be angry. I've already sued them. I comforted her. I'm working in Shenzhen now, and my income is much higher than before. You and Dad don't have to worry about me. That's good, that's good. My mom's voice was a little choked up. Son, you've suffered all these years. It's okay. It's all in the past, I said with a smile. Mom, I'll transfer money to you and Dad often from now on. Whatever you want to eat or buy, don't hesitate to spend it. After hanging up, I suddenly felt a wave of relief. This was the life I wanted. A fulfilling job, a good income, the ability to provide for my parents and not having to answer to anyone. As for Su Qing and Su Ming, let them slowly suffer the consequences in the pit they dug for themselves. In court on Friday, Su Qing was wearing a black suit. Her hair was messy and her eyes were red and swollen. She looked extremely haggard. Su Ming sat next to her, pale and not daring to look in my direction. I was wearing a neatly pressed suit, sitting at the plaintiff's table with my lawyer, an experienced middle-aged woman, beside me. The plaintiff may state the reason for the lawsuit, the judge said. I stood up and said in a clear voice, Your Honor, during the course of our marriage, the defendant, Su Qing, without my consent, secretly transferred our joint property, a house valued at 3 million yuan, to the defendant, Su Ming, for an extremely low price. At the same time, the defendant, Su Qing, also secretly transferred 492,000 yuan from my personal bank account to the defendant, Su Ming. This action has seriously violated my property rights. I hereby request the court to order the defendants to return my property and bear the corresponding legal responsibilities. The judge nodded and then looked at the defendant's table. The defense may present its case. Su Qing's lawyer was a young-looking man, obviously inexperienced. He stood up and said, Your Honor, the defendant, Su Qing, admits to transferring the property, but it was motivated by the good intention of helping her brother get married, not by malicious misappropriation. Moreover, they are husband and wife, and marital property should be managed jointly. My lawyer immediately stood up to rebut. Your Honor, according to the relevant provisions of the Civil Code, even joint marital property requires mutual agreement for its disposal. The defendant Su Qing's actions are clearly illegal. Furthermore, the property title deed is in the plaintiff's name only, which should be recognized as the plaintiff's personal property. The court debate lasted for nearly 2 hours. During this time, I presented a large amount of evidence, bank transfer records, the property deed, property transfer documents, and so on. Apart from admitting the facts, Su Qing's side offered no strong rebuttal. Finally, the judge announced a recess and said a verdict would be delivered on a later date. After leaving the courtroom, Su Qing chased after me. Lin Yi, I'm begging you, drop the lawsuit. She grabbed my sleeve, her eyes red. Let's talk this over properly. It doesn't have to come to this. I shook her hand off. What's there to talk about? You gave the house to Su Ming behind my back, transferred my savings to Su Ming, and now you're scared. I really know I was wrong. Su Qing said, crying. I can find a way to pay you back. Pay me back with what? I sneered. Su Ming can't even afford his mortgage payments right now. How are you going to pay me back 3.5 million? Su Qing was struck speechless by my question. Just then, Su Ming also came out of the courtroom. He was pale as he walked up to me. Brother-in-law, I was wrong about this. If you want to hit or yell at someone, do it to me. Don't make things difficult for my sister. So now you know to call me brother-in-law? I looked at him sarcastically. When you were taking my house, why didn't you think I was your brother-in-law? When you were spending my money, why didn't you think I was your brother-in-law? Su Ming lowered his head, not daring to speak. I continued. Su Ming, let me ask you, how do you plan to give the house back to me? How do you plan to repay that 1 million yuan loan? I'll figure something out. Su Ming's voice was very quiet. Figure something out? Almost laughed out loud. You earn 3,000 a month. How do you plan to pay back 1 million? Su Ming fell completely silent. Su Qing cried on the side. Lin Yi, how about this? I'll go to work. I'll definitely work hard to earn money to pay you back. You? Work? I looked at her. You failed the civil service exam for 3 years in a row. What kind of job can you find? Even if you find one, how much can you make in a month? 3,000? 5,000? How long will it take you to pay it back? My words made Su Qing even more desperate. Looking at the brother and sister, I didn't feel a trace of sympathy. I'll say it one last time. Either we settle this privately according to my previous conditions, or we wait for the court's verdict, I said coldly. There's nothing else to discuss. With that, I turned and left. Su Qing's cries came from behind me, but I didn't look back. Back at the company, I threw myself into my work. The development of the new product had entered a critical stage, and our team worked late almost every day. But I enjoyed it. The busy work helped me forget my troubles, and watching the product take shape little by little gave me a sense of accomplishment that Su-Ching could never give me. That night, I was debugging a program in the office when my phone rang. The caller ID showed an unknown number. I hesitated for a moment, then answered, "Is this Mr. Lin E? I'm Su Ming's girlfriend. My name is Li Ming." I was taken aback. "What can I do for you?" "Mr. Lin, I'd like to meet with you to talk about Su Ming's situation." Li Ming's voice sounded very polite. "When would be convenient for you?" I thought for a moment. "Tomorrow at noon. You pick the place. How about the Starbucks in the city center?" "All right." After hanging up, I was curious about what this Li Ming wanted to say to me. The next day at noon, I arrived at Starbucks on time. Li Ming was already waiting for me. She was a stylish-looking girl, around 25 or 26, with delicate makeup and brand-name clothes. "Hello, Mr. Lin." She stood up and shook my hand. "Thank you for agreeing to see me." I ordered a coffee and got straight to the point. "What do you want to talk about?" Li Ming hesitated, then said, "Mr. Lin, Su Ming told me what happened between you. I think there might be some misunderstanding." "Misunderstanding?" I raised an eyebrow. "What misunderstanding?" "Su Ming said that you agreed to transfer the house and the money back then," Li Ming said cautiously. "He said you had promised to help him get married." I almost choked on my coffee. "He said that?" "Yes. He said you were a great brother-in-law and always took good care of him." I put down my coffee cup and looked at Li Ming. "Then do you think if I had really agreed to give him the house, I would be suing him now?" Li Ming froze, clearly not having considered this question. I continued, "Besides, if I had agreed to give him the house, why would Su-Ching transfer the ownership behind my back? Why not do it openly and honestly?" Li Ming's expression began to change. I took out my phone and pulled up the bank transfer records. "Look at these records. Su-Ching transferred all of this secretly. I had no idea beforehand. Does that look like I agreed?" Li Ming stared at the phone screen, her face growing paler. "And I took out a stack of documents. These are all the procedures for the property transfer. Look at the signatures on them. My signature on the property deed was forged by Su-Ching." Li Ming was completely stunned. I looked at her. "Do you still think it's a misunderstanding now?" Li Ming was silent for a long time, then asked, "Then, what will happen to Su Ming now? The house and car are both going to be repossessed by the bank." "He deserves it," I said bluntly. "He enjoyed a life paid for with stolen money. Now it's time to pay the price." But we were supposed to get married next month." Li Ming's eyes turned red. Looking at this girl, I suddenly felt a bit of sympathy for her. She was a victim too, deceived by Su Ming. "Li Ming, let me give you some advice," I said slowly. "Leave Su Ming now while you still can. He owes the bank $1 million, a debt he'll never be able to repay in his lifetime. If you stay with him, you'll only ruin yourself." Li Ming bit her lip as tears fell. I stood up. "I have to go. By the way, the court will be delivering its verdict soon. It won't be a good outcome for Su Ming. You should look out for yourself." Walking out of the coffee shop, I had mixed feelings. That scumbag Su Ming would even lie to his own girlfriend. But maybe this was for the best. After learning the truth, Li Ming would probably leave him. At that point, Su Ming would truly have nothing left. Thinking of this, my mood lifted again. This was the price for betraying me. On the day the verdict came down, I was in a board meeting at the company. My assistant, Xiao Chun, knocked gently and came in, handing me a note. "Mr. Lin, a call from the court." I looked at the other executives in the conference room and said apologetically, "Excuse me, I have to take an important call." Stepping out of the conference room, I dialed the court's number. "Mr. Lin, the verdict is out." The clerk's voice was very formal. "The court supports all of your claims. The defendants, Su Ming and Su-Ching, are required to return your property losses of 3.5 million yuan within 1 month and bear the litigation costs." Holding the phone, I felt both excited and calm. Excited because I had finally won. Calm because this outcome was expected. "Thank you," I said to the clerk. "When will the enforcement proceedings begin?" "If the defendants do not comply with the judgment voluntarily within 1 month, you can apply for compulsory enforcement." After hanging up, I stood in the hallway for a moment to compose myself, then returned to the conference room. "Sorry, let's continue," I said, returning to my seat and focusing on the meeting. But deep down, a voice was saying, Lin E, you are free. After the meeting, I went back to my office and found more than a dozen missed calls on my phone, all from Su Qing. There were also countless WeChat messages, ranging from anger to despair, and then to pleading. I didn't reply to any of them. Instead, I opened my computer and started processing work emails. In the evening, my phone rang again. This time it was my mom. Son, I heard you won a lawsuit. My mom's voice was filled with relief. Yes, the court ordered them to pay back the money, I said simply. That's good, that's good. My mom sighed. Son, you've been wronged for so many years. It's time you got justice. Mom, let's not talk about that, I said with a smile. By the way, I'll probably be officially divorced this month. Then get divorced. That kind of woman isn't worth your time. My mom's attitude was firm. Son, your job is stable now. Find a good girl and start over. I know, I'm not in a hurry. After chatting with my mom for a while, I was about to leave work when the office door was suddenly pushed open. Su Qing stood at the entrance, crying her eyes out, with an embarrassed Xiao Chun behind her. Mr. Lin, I couldn't stop her. Xiao Chun explained. I waved my hand. You can go home for the day. After Xiao Chun left, only Su Qing and I remained in the office. Lin E, I'm begging you, cancel the enforcement. Su Qing rushed over to hug my legs, but I dodged her. I looked at her coldly. Su Qing, how did you find my company? I asked someone to find out. Su Qing said through her tears. Lin E, we really can't afford $3.5 million. Just take pity on us. Pity you? I sneered. When you two were stealing my house and my money, why didn't you take pity on me? I really know I was wrong. Su Qing knelt on the floor. I'll do anything you want. Just please don't enforce the judgment. Watching Su Qing kneel on the floor, I felt nothing. This woman, who had betrayed and hurt me time and again over the past 3 years, was scared now. Su Qing, let me ask you a question. I sat in my chair, looking down on her. If Su Ming ran into trouble again right now and needed money, what would you choose to do? Su Qing was taken aback for a moment, then hurriedly said, I wouldn't give it to him. I'll never give him money again. Really? I stared into her eyes. Do you swear? I swear. I swear to God. Su Qing raised her right hand. If I ever give Su Ming another penny, may I die a horrible death. I watched her act in silence, then took out my phone and dialed the number. Hello, is this Su Ming? I said, speaking in front of Su Qing. This is Lin. Su Qing's eyes widened as she stared at me. I continued, Su Ming, I can consider not enforcing the judgment, but on one condition. You need 50,000 yuan right now. Have Su Qing figure out a way to get it for you. If she can give it to you, I'll withdraw the enforcement. Su Ming was stunned for a moment on the phone, then quickly said, Okay, I'll go ask my sister right now. I hung up and looked at Su Qing. Su Ming will call you in 5 minutes and ask you for 50,000 yuan. Let's see how much that oath of yours was just worth. Su Qing's face turned pale. Lin E, you're testing me. Yes, I was testing you. I'm not hiding it, I said, because I want to prove that you can't change at all. Sure enough, not even 3 minutes later, Su Qing's phone rang. She looked at the caller ID, her hand trembling. Answer it, I urged. Su Qing picked up the phone, and Su Ming's urgent voice came through. Sis, you have to help me. I need 50,000 yuan urgently. My brother-in-law said that as long as you give me the 50,000, he won't enforce the judgment. Su Qing looked at me, her eyes full of struggle. I waited calmly for her choice. Su Ming continued on the phone. Sis, you have to help me. I'm really at the end of my rope. The bank is going to repossess the house tomorrow. Su Qing bit her lip, tears streaming down her face. Finally, she spoke. Xiao Ming, I'll think of something. I shook my head in disappointment and stood up to walk towards the door. Su Qing hurriedly chased after me. Lin E, I won't give it to him. I was just confused for a moment. I stopped and turned back to look at her. Su Qing, do you think I'll believe you? I really won't give it to him. Suing promised. Krain. I took out my phone, found a recording, and pressed play. Su Qing's own voice came out. Xiao Ming, I'll think of something. She was completely stunned. See, you can't change it all, I said calmly. In your heart, Su Ming will always be more important than me. Since that's the case, there's no possibility of reconciliation between us. After speaking, I walked straight out of the office. Behind me came Su Qing's desperate cries, but I didn't look back. Walking out of the company building, the night wind of Shenzhen blew on my face, and I felt an unprecedented sense of relief. Finally, I had seen Su Qing's true colors, and I had completely given up hope. I took out my phone and sent a WeChat message to my lawyer. Please prepare the divorce petition for me. The sooner the better. Then, I deleted all of Su Qing's contact information. From now on, we were strangers. On the third day after the divorce petition was filed with the court, I received an unexpected phone call. May I speak to Mr. Lin? I'm from Huaxin Bank. My name is Manager Wang. This is he. What can I do for you? It's like this. The property under the name of Mr. Su Ming, whom you're suing, is scheduled for judicial auction tomorrow. According to the court's judgment, the proceeds from the auction will be used to pay off your debt first. My heart skipped a beat. What's the starting bid for the auction? 1,800,000. This is the net value after deducting the bank loan. I thought for a moment. I want to participate in the auction. Of course, but Mr. Lin, I need to remind you that if you win the bid for this property, you will have to assume the remaining bank loan. I understand. After hanging up the phone, I started to calculate. I was too familiar with that house. It was in a great location, and its normal market price was at least $3 million. Now, with a starting bid of $1,800,000, it was like a 40% discount, and it was originally my house. The next afternoon, I took half a day off and went to the auction site. There were many people there, about a dozen or so, and most of them looked like professional real estate investors. I found a corner to sit down and quietly waited for the auction to begin. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin the auction for a 3-bedroom residence located in the city center, with a building area of 120 square meters. The starting bid is 1.8 million yuan, and each bid increment must be no less than 50,000 yuan. As soon as the auctioneer's voice fell, someone raised their paddle. 1.85 million. 1.9 million. 1.95 million. The price quickly rose to 2 million, and then slowed down. I hadn't bid yet, waiting for the right moment. 2.25 million. Any more bids? The auctioneer looked around the room. At this moment, I raised my paddle. 5 million. Everyone in the room turned to look at me. A middle-aged man who looked like an investor frowned. 2.55 million. The middle-aged man continued to bid. I didn't hesitate. 2.8 million. The middle-aged man glanced at me, seemingly weighing something. Finally, he shook his head and did not raise his paddle again. 2.8 million going once, 2.8 million going twice, 2.8 million sold. I bought back my own house. After finishing the paperwork, I drove directly to the house. When I arrived downstairs, I saw the familiar black BMW X5 parked on the side of the road. That was the car Su Ming had bought with my money, and it should be repossessed by the bank soon. I sat in my car and called Su Ming. Su Ming, it's me, Lin. Bro, brother-in-law. Su Ming's voice was a little panicked. Why are you calling me? I'm downstairs, come down. What? What are you doing here? Come down and you'll see. 10 minutes later, Su Ming walked out of the building. He looked much more haggard, his face covered in stubble and his eyes bloodshot. When he saw me, his expression instantly turned ugly. What are you here for? He asked warily. I rolled down the car window and said lightly, to take a look at my house. Your house. Su Ming paused for a moment. Then it dawned on him. The house was auctioned? Yes, and I bought it. I watched his terrified expression. For 2.8 million. Su Ming was completely stunned. You bought it. That's right. I got out of the car. Su Ming, this house is mine again now, and you need to move out immediately. Impossible. Su Ming's voice became shrill. This is my house. You can't kick me out. Your house. I sneered. It was sold at a court auction. The current property owner is me. What right do you have to live here? Su Ming's face was pale, his lips trembling. Brother-in-law, you can't do this to me. I'm your brother-in-law. Brother-in-law? I looked at him sarcastically. When you stole my house, did you think of me as your brother-in-law? When you were spending my money, did you see me as your brother-in-law then? Su Ming was rendered speechless by my words. I took out my phone and pulled up a number. Su Ming, I'm giving you a final 10 minutes to pack your things. If you're still in the house in 10 minutes, I'll call the police and report you for unlawful occupation. Seeing that I was serious about calling the police, Su Ming panicked completely. Brother-in-law, I'm begging you, just give me a few days to find a place. Not even 1 minute, I said coldly. When you kicked me out of this house, did you give me any time? Su Ming wanted to say something, but seeing my resolute expression, he ultimately didn't dare to speak. He went upstairs dejectedly to pack his things. 20 minutes later, Su Ming came out dragging a suitcase, followed by a pale-faced Li Meng. Seeing Li Meng, I was a bit surprised. Why are you still with him? Li Meng bit her lip, her eyes filled with tears. Mr. Lin, I am pregnant. I was stunned for a moment, then sighed. This girl was truly unlucky to have ended up with a man like Su Ming. Li Meng, let me give you one more piece of advice, I said, looking at her. Make a decision quickly, while the child is still small. If you stay with Su Ming, your life will only get more miserable. Li Meng's tears fell, but she still took Su Ming's hand. Let's go. Watching the two of them disappear around the corner, dragging their luggage, I had mixed feelings. That scumbag Su Ming had dragged an innocent girl down with him. But this was also Li Meng's own choice. I couldn't help her. I took out my keys and walked into my house. The house was a complete mess, with trash and dirty clothes everywhere. The walls were covered with posters of various celebrities, and the floor was littered with cigarette butts. I frowned and took out my phone to call a cleaning service. 2 hours later, the house was finally clean. I stood on the balcony, looking at the night view outside, my heart filled with complex emotions. This house held so many of my memories, some sweet and some painful. But from this day on, this place belongs only to me. I took out my phone and sent a WeChat message to my mom. Mom, I bought the house back. Soon my mom called back. Son, what did you say? You bought the house back. I briefly explained what happened today. After hearing the story, my mom was overjoyed. That's wonderful. This is what they call good is rewarded with good and evil with evil. Mom, when are you and Dad coming to visit Shenzhen? I said with a smile. The house is empty anyway. All right, when your dad retires, we'll come and see you. After hanging up, I sent another WeChat message to my lawyer to ask about the progress of the divorce case. The lawyer replied quickly. Su Qing's side has agreed to an uncontested divorce. The paperwork can be done next week. Looking at this message, I finally felt completely at ease. Finally, it was all coming to an end. Su Qing lost her ATM, Su Ming lost the house and car, and I regained my freedom. This was the price of betrayal. The divorce proceedings went smoothly. At the Civil Affairs Bureau, Su Qing cried her eyes out, repeatedly apologizing and begging me to give her another chance. But my heart was as still as water. I signed the divorce agreement, took the divorce certificate, and walked away without looking back. The moment I walked out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, I felt a sense of relief wash over my entire being. From this day on, I was free. Back at the company, I threw all my energy into my work. The new product was about to launch, and our team had been working overtime for 2 straight months. Everyone was exhausted, but seeing the product improve bit by bit, the sense of accomplishment excited us all. That evening, I was in my office debugging the final module when my assistant, Xiao Chun, knocked and came in. Mr. Lin, a woman is here to see you. She says it's urgent. Without looking up, I said, have her make an appointment. We'll talk tomorrow. She said her name is Su Qing. My hands paused for a moment, then I continued typing code. Tell her I'm not seeing her. Xiao Chun looked troubled, but she said if you don't see her, she'll wait downstairs all night. I let out a cold laugh. Then let her wait. After Xiao Chun left, I continued to work. But for some reason, I felt a little unsettled. At 2 a.m, I finally finished everything. Walking out of the company building, I saw a figure huddled by the flower bed downstairs. It was Su Qing. She was wearing a thin jacket, shivering in Shenzhen's night breeze. Seeing her like this, a trace of pity flashed through my heart, but it vanished just as quickly. This was her own choice. I ignored her and walked directly to the parking lot. Lini. Su Qing saw me and hurried over. Please, just let me say a few words. I stopped and looked at her. Whatever you have to say it quickly. Xiao Ming. Something happened to Xiao Ming. Su Qing said, crying. He owes money to loan sharks, and now he's in hiding. I frowned. What does that have to do with me? They couldn't find Xiao Ming, so they came after me. Su Qing rolled up her sleeve, revealing purple bruises on her arm. They said if Xiao Ming doesn't pay up, I have to. Seeing the bruises on her arm, I was genuinely shocked. But I still said coldly, that's your family's business. It has nothing to do with me. Lin Yi, I'm begging you. Su Qing knelt on the ground. I know I wronged you, but for the sake of us once being married, please help me. Once being married? I sneered. Did you ever treat me like a husband? In your heart, I was just an ATM. I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. Su Qing, I'll ask you one last time. I looked down at her. If I help you pay off this debt now, can you guarantee you'll never help Su Ming again? Sui nodded immediately. I guarantee it. I swear. Fine. I'll give you 500,000. I took out my phone, but on one condition. From now on, you cut off all ties with Su Ming. You can never see or contact him again. Su Qing froze for a moment. Cut off ties? But he's my brother. It seems you still choose Su Ming. I put my phone away and turned to leave. Wait. Suing quickly grabbed me. I agree. I agree to cut off ties. I stopped. Really? Really? Su Qing nodded through her tears. As long as you help me pay the debt, I'll cut ties with Xiao Ming. I looked at her and suddenly laughed. Su Qing, do you know? 3 years ago, if you were in this situation, I would have helped you without a second thought. A glimmer of hope flashed in Su Qing's eyes. But my next words sent her into complete despair. But not anymore, I said coldly, because I've seen right through you. Even if I help you pay this debt now, it won't be long before you come to me for Su Ming's sake again. Because in your heart, I will always be your backup wallet. No, that's not it, Su Qing cried, trying to explain. I really know I was wrong. Su Qing, do you remember how you treated me when we first got married? I looked at her, my eyes full of sarcasm. Back then, you said I was your everything, your whole world. But what happened? In your heart, I wasn't even as important as your brother. Su Qing was rendered speechless. I continued. In 3 years, how much money have I given Su Ming? 1 million? 2 million? Or more? I never kept count because I thought we were family. But you? What did you take me for? Lin Yi. Su Qing tried to say something, but I cut her off. Enough. I waved my hand. Su Qing, we are divorced. Legally speaking, we have no relationship anymore. Whether you live or die has nothing to do with me. With that, I got into my car and drove away. Through the rearview mirror, I saw Su Qing kneeling on the ground, crying her heart out. But in my heart, there wasn't a single ripple. This was the ending she deserved. The next morning, I was in a meeting when I suddenly received a call from an unknown number. Is this Mr. Lin? I'm a doctor from the Municipal People's Hospital. A woman named Su Qing has been hospitalized, and you are listed as her emergency contact. My heart skipped a beat. What happened to her? External injuries, but not serious. However, her mental state is not very good right now. She keeps calling your name. I was silent for a few seconds. I see. After hanging up the phone, I sat in my office and thought for a long time. In the end, I still didn't go to the hospital. Su Qing's injuries were self-inflicted, and her pain was her own choice. I had already given her too many chances. Now I just want to live my own life well. On the day the new product was launched, the company held a celebration banquet. In front of everyone, the boss praised me and announced my promotion and raise. Director Lin, your contribution to the successful launch of this product was indispensable. The boss raised his glass. I toast to you. I also raised my glass. Thank you for your trust, boss. This is the result of the team's hard work. Colleagues came over one after another to congratulate me, and the atmosphere was very lively. After a few rounds of drinks, the boss called me aside. Director Lin, I have an idea I'd like to discuss with you. Please go ahead. The company is preparing to open a branch in Beijing, and I hope you can go there to be the general manager. The boss looked at me. An annual salary of 2 million, plus bonuses and stock options. I was a little surprised. Beijing. Yes, the market there is huge, but it needs a capable person to develop it. The boss patted my shoulder. After thinking it over and over, I believe you are the most suitable candidate. I thought for a moment. I need to think about it. Of course, take your time. There's no rush. After the celebration banquet ended, I drove alone, wandering aimlessly through the streets of Shenzhen. Beijing, that was a bigger stage, and it also meant more opportunities. But at the same time, it also meant leaving Shenzhen this place where I had just settled down. Just as I was thinking, my phone rang. The caller ID showed, Mom. Son, are you busy? No, Mom, what's up? My mom's voice was a little hesitant. Son, I heard from your aunt that Su Qing is in a hospital. My heart sank. My aunt is my mom's older sister. She lives in our hometown and is always well informed. Yes, I heard, I said calmly. Then, have you been to see her? No. My answer was blunt. There was silence on the other end of the line for a moment. Then my mom said, Son, even though you're divorced, you were husband and wife once. Mom, I interrupted her. What happened to Su Qing? She brought it on herself. I've already given her too many chances. But she has no one else to rely on now. That was her choice. My tone was a bit cold and hard. Mom, do you know how she treated me these past 3 years? For her younger brother, she secretly sold our house behind my back. She secretly transferred my savings. Does a woman like that deserve sympathy? My mom sighed. Son, I'm not asking you to forgive her. I just think. Never mind. You decide for yourself. After hanging up, I felt a bit agitated. I know my mom's personality. She's soft-hearted and can't bear to see others suffer. But she doesn't know how Su Qing hurt me. I drove the car to the seaside and sat alone on the beach, feeling the breeze. The sea breeze in Shenzhen carried a faint salty taste, blowing away the frustration in my heart. I took out my phone and saw a few unread messages. One of them was from the hospital. Patient Su Qing's condition is stable, but she is refusing to cooperate with treatment and keeps demanding to contact you. I stared at the message, hesitated for a long time, and finally deleted it. Su Qing, I've already given you too many chances. This time, there really won't be a next time. The waves lapped against the shore, layer by layer, making a monotonous and rhythmic sound. Sitting there, I began to seriously consider the job opportunity in Beijing. Perhaps it was time to completely leave this place of heartbreak. In Shenzhen, I would always think of Su Qing, think of those unpleasant memories. Going to Beijing meant a completely new start. A new city, a new job, a new life. Thinking of this, I made up my mind. I took out my phone and sent a WeChat message to my boss. Boss, regarding the job in Beijing, I'm willing to accept. The boss replied quickly. Excellent. I knew you wouldn't disappoint me. We'll discuss the specific details tomorrow. Putting down my phone, I looked at the distant sea horizon, feeling an unprecedented sense of ease. Goodbye, Suing. From now on, we belong to two different worlds. The next day, I had a detailed discussion with my boss about the work arrangements in Beijing. When can you get to Beijing? My boss asked. The sooner, the better, I answered without hesitation. I don't have anything to hand over here. I can leave any time. Good. I'll have the HR department handle your transfer procedures. My boss was very satisfied with my attitude. By the way, the company has prepared an apartment for you in Beijing. It's in a great location, close to the office. Thank you, boss. A week later, all the procedures were completed. I temporarily rented out my house in Shenzhen, and with simple luggage, I boarded a flight to the north. The moment the plane took off, I looked through the window at the shrinking city of Shenzhen, without a trace of reluctance in my heart. This city had given me success in my career, but it also carried too many painful memories. Now it was time to embrace a new life. The plane flew through the clouds. I closed my eyes and began to plan my work in Beijing. Building a team, developing the market, striving to make the branch profitable within a year. There was so much to do, so many challenges awaiting me. But I wasn't afraid. After experiencing Su Qing's betrayal, I had become stronger and more independent. There was no difficulty I couldn't overcome. It was already 9 o'clock at night when the plane landed at Beijing Airport. Walking out of the airport, I looked at this ancient yet modern city, my heart filled with anticipation. Beijing, here I come. In my 3rd month of working in Beijing, I received a phone call that would change the trajectory of my life. Hello, Mr. Lin. I'm a lawyer from Jinghua Law Firm. My surname is Zhao. Hello, what can I do for you? It's about a Ms. Su Qing. She wants to contact you through us regarding an inheritance matter. My heart sank. What inheritance? Her younger brother, Su Ming, due to a dispute over high-interest loans he passed away the day before yesterday. Lawyer Zhao paused for a moment. I gripped my phone in shock, speechless for a long time. Mr. Lin, are you still there? Yes. Yes, I am. I managed to find my voice. What did you just say? Su Ming is dead. Yes, I'm very sorry. Lawyer Zhao's tone was heavy. Currently, Ms. Su Qing is the sole legal heir, but Su Ming left behind a large amount of debt. She wants to renounce her right of inheritance and needs you, her former brother-in-law, to act as a witness. I interrupted him. Wait, Su Qing and I are divorced. I'm not her former brother-in-law. We have no relationship whatsoever. I understand your position, but Ms. Su Qing insists that besides you, she has no other relatives who can act as a witness. I was silent for a long time, my feelings incredibly complicated. Su Ming was dead. The man who had squandered my money, stolen my house, and caused my family to fall apart was just dead. It would be a lie to say I wasn't shocked. But more than that, it was an indescribable, complex emotion. Mr. Lin, when would be convenient for you? Miss Su Qing's mental state is very poor. She has attempted suicide twice. Hearing this, my heart grew even heavier. Understand. I'll fly over tomorrow. After hanging up the phone, I sat in my office in a daze. Su Ming was dead. The person who once called me brother-in-law and later schemed against me at every turn was dead. Should I be happy? After all, he was the main culprit behind the ruin of my family. But I found that I couldn't feel happy. Instead, there was an unspeakable sadness. A young life, just like that, had walked towards destruction because of greed and foolishness. The next day, I flew back to my hometown. Su Qing was already waiting at the law firm. The moment I saw her, I could hardly recognize the woman who was once so vain. She was skin and bones, her hair was a mess, and her eyes were vacant. She looked like a walking corpse. Lin. She saw me, and a flicker of light crossed her eyes, but it quickly dimmed. You're here. I nodded without speaking. Lawyer Zhao began to explain the legal procedures for inheritance. The inheritance left by Su Ming after his death was a mountain of debt. A 1 million mortgage, a 300,000 car loan, 200,000 in credit card overdrafts, and 500,000 in high-interest loans. A total debt of 2 million. And the assets? Zero. The house and car had been repossessed by the bank, and his bank account had only 8 yuan and 30 cents. According to the law, the heir can choose to renounce the right of inheritance and thus not assume the debts, Lawyer Zhao said. But it requires the signature of a witness. Su Qing looked at me with a dull expression. Lin Yi, I'm begging you to sign this for me, to let me renounce my inheritance rights. I looked at the woman who was once my wife, my heart filled with mixed feelings. Su Qing, how did Su Ming die? I asked. Su Qing's tears instantly welled up. He was beaten to death by the loan sharks. When they couldn't find the money, they just. She couldn't go on and collapsed onto the table, sobbing. I listened to her cry in silence. I felt no pleasure, only a deep sadness. Su Ming had brought this upon himself, to be sure. But what about Su Qing? She was a victim too. I'll sign, I said to Lawyer Zhao. The paperwork was completed quickly. Walking out of the law firm, Su Qing followed behind me. Lin Yi, thank you, she said, her voice small. If you hadn't signed for me, I would have had to take on Xiao Ming's debts. I stopped and turned back to look at her. Su Qing, what are your plans for the future? She shook her head blankly. I don't know. Find a job and live a good life, I said. Su Ming is already dead. You can't ruin your own life for him anymore. Su Qing nodded, tears welling up in her eyes again. Lin Yi, I know I wronged you, and I know you won't forgive me, but I still want to say I'm sorry. Looking at her, much of the anger in my heart had dissipated. The man was dead. What was the point of holding a grudge? Su Qing, remember this, I said, looking her seriously in the eyes. In this world, everyone must bear the consequences of their own choices. Su Ming chose greed, and he paid for it with his life. You chose to help him without principle, and so you lost your marriage and your family. As Su Qing listened to my words, her tears flowed ceaselessly. But, I continued, life goes on. From this day forward, you must learn to live for yourself. Don't make foolish choices for anyone else ever again. After saying this, I turned to leave. Lin Yi, Su Qing called out from behind me. Will you come back? I didn't turn around. No. That single word completely severed all ties between us. Walking on the streets of my old hometown, I looked at the familiar scenery with complex emotions. This place held so many of my memories, both good and painful. But from today on, I would bid a final farewell to the past. Su Ming was dead, and Su Qing had completely disappeared from my life. Those painful memories could finally, truly become the past. I took out my phone and sent a WeChat message to my assistant in Beijing. I'm coming back to Beijing tomorrow. Please arrange next week's meetings. Then, I deleted all contact information related to Su Qing and Su Ming from my phone. From now on, I would live only for myself. As the plane took off again, I watched my hometown grow more distant through the window. I felt no reluctance to leave, only a sense of release. This time, I was truly free. After returning to Beijing, I threw myself completely into my work. Under my leadership, the company's Beijing branch developed rapidly, becoming profitable in less than a year. I also met my current wife, a gentle and considerate Beijing girl. She wouldn't secretly transfer money to her brother behind my back, wouldn't treat me like an ATM. She truly loved me, and I truly loved her. This was the life I wanted. 3 years later, we had our own child. Through my efforts, the company also successfully went public, and I became one of the youngest CEOs of a listed company. A successful career and a happy family. All of this, I only obtained after leaving Su Qing. Sometimes I wonder, if Su Qing hadn't betrayed me back then, would I still be living a mediocre life in that small city? Perhaps her betrayal, in a way, was what made me. The irony of fate, I suppose. However, I don't feel any gratitude towards her, because my success was earned through my own hard work. It had nothing to do with her.